Coming up right here on the Rod Arquette Show. Of course, an ongoing story right now are the student protests that are taking place all around the country. Started at Columbia, continue to spread around the country, even though yesterday at the University of Texas in Austin and out at USC, police and security moved in and said, not here. But the center of attention right now has to deal with Columbia. Students at Columbia have been alerted that all in-person classes will be held virtually now through the end of the semester as anti-Israeli protesters have taken over the campus. So what is life like on the campus right now? Joining us on our Newsmaker line is Jonas Du. Jonas is a current student, I should say, at Columbia, the editor-in-chief of a student magazine that promotes free speech at Columbia University. And Jonas is joining us on our Newsmaker line right now. Jonas, how are you? Welcome to the Rod Arquette Show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Jonas, give us an update as to the mood on the campus at Columbia University right now. How would you describe it, Jonas?
Well, I would first describe it as extremely, extremely tense. Things have become so tense and unprecedented, more than anything I've seen, and this is known as a protest school, but never has it been this bad. Let me tell you, Jewish students are afraid to walk on campus or even around campus because that's where a lot of the protests are. And students in general, seeing police on campus arrest hundreds of students, it's not an ideal atmosphere for learning at all. And it doesn't really feel like a university anymore, I'll be honest with you.
Jonas, how did this start? I mean, how did this begin? And it seemed to expand rapidly. What happened, do you think?
Well, I believe that the whole thing was catalyzed by the Manoush Shafiq anti-Semitism hearing in Congress, and that's our university president. So they timed the opening of the Gaza Solidarity Encampment with her congressional testimony. So the morning that our university president was in Congress, they went onto the lawns and they set up tents and they were protesting. They said they want divestment, all of that. You know, I think the university president did a good thing when she, took action and said, hey, you're breaking the rules. If you don't leave, we'll have to call the police and escort you off. And she did. But what they didn't anticipate is how determined these protesters were to continue occupying the lawn. So then they moved over to the other lawn, and they've been there ever since. They've set up a full-fledged, it's almost like a village. It's like a commune. They're calling each other comrade, and they have a schedule of events for the day. They have people bringing them food. It's unreal, and I cannot believe that it's happening at an Ivy League campus.
Jonas, how many of these students are actually students, and how many are just agitators infiltrating the students? Any idea?
Yeah, so the situation is right now that campus has been locked down since last Monday, I believe. And what that means is that you need to have a Columbia University ID to access the campus. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that's enforced consistently or not is up for debate. I personally have seen people sneaking through the gates. There are certain gaps in the gates in which you can sneak people in. People also can just claim they're journalists or claim they're press. So we have seen a lot of viral videos of people who are not exactly students coming onto campus, harassing Jewish students, saying just some pretty anti-Semitic, pretty inciting things. So although majority of the protesters are students, there are definitely a lot of agitators making their way in. And certainly everybody outside campus, most of them are not students. Those are people from NYU, from City College, coming in via the subway to come and protest to show that they support the encampment that's happening inside the gates.
Jonas, what have you personally experienced? Have you been shouted at, threatened? What have you personally experienced up to this point, Jonas?
I'm not Jewish, so you would expect that I would have a fairly normal experience. Mm-hmm. But I am saying that what I've experienced is that the tense atmosphere on campus has extended to pretty much every student. Now, I engage in a lot of journalism, and so I go out and I do reporting, I take pictures of the protests, things like that. And I was outside campus one day, and one of the protesters, the pro-Palestine protesters, they started filming me. For no reason, I was just standing there observing. And then they started filming me and asking me all these questions about what I was studying. And eventually they accused me of being, a Zionist, without me saying a single word. So it's just crazy out here. The other day I was at the lawns. I was trying to just, take a nice walk with my friends, catch up on the events of the week, all of that. But we were stopped from the lawns just observing what was happening. And they came up to us. And they asked us to keep moving. They're acting like they own the lawns. They're like, please keep moving. We're trying to have a meeting here. And they made the decision to have the meeting in a public space. So it really baffled me. And then they also called me. I think they recognized me from some of the videos I've been posting on Twitter and some of my appearances on People News. But I guess they recognized me and they called me a Zionist clickbaiter. So it's just a crazy atmosphere here. And they started following us around with blankets, holding up blankets, trying to stop us from looking into the encampment. These students really are living in their own reality, and they're dragging down the entire university with them.
Jonas, do some of the students even know what they're protesting? Because I've seen some video. People have no idea what they're doing there.
Exactly. There's a great video of some protesters at NYU who did not seem to know why they were there. And I would ask the same question to the Columbia protesters. Do you actually know what you're supporting? And, they say divestment, right? First of all, universities' investments most of them aren't public, right? So they're protesting something that they don't have certainty in. They don't know that the university is actually invested in Israel or not. Now, some of the information is public, and the information that is public is showing that, it's a fraction of a percent of the university's endowment that's invested in things like Amazon and Google. And by the way, these are stocks that, most Americans who are invested in the stock market have some exposure to. So it really does make no sense. And a lot of the students in there are in there because they oppose the NYPD. They think law enforcement is racist, is bad, is targeting students of color, all of that. And they were catalyzed by the arrest of the students the other day. And now they've joined in solidarity with them. So I don't think most of the students know what they're protesting. It started as a ceasefire movement. Now it's become, a destruction of the state of Israel, a lot of it saying, resistance, we don't want the Zionist entity around, all of that. And it's just become a very hostile environment.
Final question for you, Jonas. What do you see happening next? Is there a possibility that police or the National Guard or whatever may move in to kick those students out, or are we just going to be at a stalemate for a little while?
Well, I don't think it will go as far as to involve the National Guard. I think that would be that'd be overkill, I would say. But the deadline for the negotiation, and can you believe it? The university president is negotiating with the student protesters about their demands.
Why?
It's wild. Yeah. So, the negotiation deadline has been set at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And so we'll have to see whether that gets postponed, whether they reach an agreement, or whether the university president decides to send in the NYPD again to clear the encampment. So we really don't know. What I think will happen is that, she'll give them a day. And then, she sent a message. She called it alternative solutions to clearing the encampment instead of leaving voluntarily. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Why is she even negotiating? I wonder. Jonas, great chatting with you. Good luck to you, and appreciate you joining us tonight here on the Rod Arquette Show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, joining us on our Newsmaker line, that's Jonas Du. Jonas is a student there at Columbia, the editor-in-chief of a student magazine that promotes free speech at CU, giving us an update as to what is going on there at Columbia. All right, more coming up here on the Rod Arquette Show and Utah's Talk Radio 105.